Nailed it.
Okay, now that we all know each other, I'm going to once again introduce James.
Yay!
And before I do that, I'm going to acknowledge that we gather as guests here on the unceded traditional lands of the Duwamish people who have lived in and been caretakers of the land here since time immemorial. We thank the people of the Coast Salish tribes for their stewardship, and we strive to nurture our relationships with Indigenous peoples of the Northwest by joining their efforts to work for social justice and to care for this land. James Kennedy, who many of you know, is the author of books including YA Ode to the Strange and Overlooked, The Order of Odd Fish, and sci-fi time travel thriller Dare to Know. He has earned doctorates in physics and philosophy.
No, not doctorates, just undergraduate.
Nope, undergraduate degrees. You should just let me say it.
Honesty is a big value.
Record scratch. How did I end up here? He has earned undergraduate degrees in physics and philosophy, programmed computers, traveled the world, put on a gallery show / sacrificial ritual of fan works, started a video contest for kid filmmakers, serenaded Neil Gaiman with Katy Perry's Fireworks, and I'm not even scratching the surface of the whimsical and strange shenanigans that this author has brought into the literary world. His latest novel, Bride of the Tornado, is a Midwestern horror thriller following a young woman whose town is mysteriously plagued by a spate of sentient tornadoes. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce James Kennedy.
Hey!
Young girls creepy Midwestern town. Each generation must be locked down. For sentient cyclones have come to destroy. The town's only hope is one weird boy. The Tornado Killer is what he's named. The town's only a heroine's heart. He's already inflamed, but neither one knows of the looming cult. This town is run by demonic adults! Oh! Here I am! Bride of the Tornado! Here I am! Bride of the Tornado! Thank you very much for coming, Bride of the Tornado! I am very gratified that all of my friends are here. Everybody that I know in Seattle. And a new friend. New friends! So I'm also very gratified that you're all participating today in the national kind of trend of Bride of the Barbnadoheimer.
Yay!
I know that you've all seen Barbie and then Oppenheimer and then come to this. And I think that's very big of you. So Bride of the Tornado, for those of you who don't know about it, haven't read it yet, or it's about this small town. It's perpetually threatened by these tornadoes. There's this boy called the Tornado Killer. He's able to wrestle and kill tornadoes just by kind of punching them and wrestling them down. But he can't come into town. And as the tornado season goes on, this once-in-a-generation tornado season, nobody can leave. But the main character is this girl who is kind of fascinated by a tornado killer, and she feels this kind of, I don't know, kinship between them or connection. And as she starts to unravel this mystery, she finds that there are very, very bad things planned for both of them. Do you not say that's a fair way to describe it?
I think that's a very fair way to describe it.
All right, so I've been very happy with the reviews so far. Oh, actually, could you move, get this over, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I'm really good at maneuvering the projector.
there's been a lot of fun reviews, but my favorite one so far is from the Daily Mail. Strap yourselves in for a superstorm of psychosexual intensity. Which, my mom is very proud. Those are the official reviews, but there's also been a lot of good stuff on Goodreads and stuff like that as well. However, my favorite review I found on The Story Graph, and it goes like this. I hated the experience of reading this book so much that I suppose it's a recommendation. It's self-consciously weird, violent at exactly the wrong times, gross when it doesn't need to be, and the cat situation was unacceptable.
Okay, whatever that is, I'm going to agree with that part only.
The cat is fine.
Okay, but that's fine.
It was also, she says grudgingly, well constructed, well written, well plotted, with characters who a reader can care about. You'll love it, assuming you're a terrible person. I think we have a lot of terrible people here today. So thank you for being part of my club of terrible people. So before we go on, I would like to just read a short part of Bride of the Tornado for you, if you don't mind. This is from the very first chapter, so it's not much of a spoiler. The main character, who doesn't have a name, it's tornado day, and she's awakened early by her parents. Like everybody's been fasting for a couple days. None of the kids know what's going on. All the adults seem to be secretive about something. They're all brought to the school early in the morning. They go through this kind of assembly that's very strange. This boy comes out. They call him the tornado killer, but he just seems like a kid. He starts making this extremely weird speech, and then the class bully comes out and kind of starts beating him up. The lights go out. The place is being attacked by tornadoes, and here's what happens next. I was blasted out into the main hallway. Books and papers and desks, and a kid flew past me, hurtling down the corridor. Locker doors were torn from their hinges, walls collapsing, windows cracked and shattered and bled down the hall in glittering streams. A flying chair clipped to the side of my head, and I flew out of the school and up into the sky as though I'd been shot out of a gun. I tumbled through the churning air. The world came at me in flashes. I blacked out, and then I was flopped out on the grass, on the playground behind the school, staring up at the monstrous spinning tornado. There were others sprawled in the field all around me. I didn't know if they were alive or dead. The roar of the tornado was deafening. My head throbbed from where the chair hit me. I was surrounded by floating papers and fluttering scraps of books and heaps of desks, staring at our school and how the tornado was already relentlessly taking it apart, whipping around faster and faster, a tremendous howling blur, ripping the roof into ribbons and went flying into the air, strips of roof fluttering up like tentacles, reaching to the sky and waving around. And then the entire roof lifted off the school. The school just shrugged it off like it didn't need a roof anyway. And then the tornado was rapidly feeding on the school, tearing off bricks, slurping out the plumbing, chewing the girders, the entire building getting bent, twisted, liquefied, gurgled, and spit into the sky. I was going to die. We were all going to die together. We were too close to this uncontrollable killing thing. The tornado whipped around with vicious energy, chewing through the wreckage, tearing apart the jumbled tables and cracked chalkboards, but almost with a kind of furious intent, like it was hunting for a retainer it had accidentally thrown away. I lay among the shredded book reports and wrecked dioramas, my head ringing, too terrified to move. Our school was destroyed, except for one thing. The stairwell of the school still remained, plus a little bit of the third floor hallway jutting out of it where the janitor's closet was. But there was no third floor anymore, no second floor, no school, just a stairwell shell of bricks and girders supporting the janitor's closet, 3 stories up in the air alone. I saw the door rattling. Someone was in there. Lightning shimmered in the dark green sky around us. Everything felt unreal. I tried to scramble up to run away. The tornado churned forward and engulfed the stairwell and the janitor's closet, swirling around it as though ravenous. It ripped the door off. The tornado killer was inside the closet, crumpled against the wall. His face was bloody. He held up a trembling hand as if to say, please, no more. The spindly mortar and metal structure that held up the closet collapsed. The tornado killer fell out. He dropped 2 stories and hit the ground. His body lay in the grass, not moving. The tornado blasted toward him. The ringing in my ears had receded enough so I could hear the little kids crying and the teachers shouting. The tornado killer was about to get shredded. Someone should have helped him. Nobody did. I stared at the tornado killer. This boy was all there was between us and this monstrous spinning funnel roaring out of the darkness. The tornado killer stirred. Other kids looked away. As unpopular as he had made himself, nobody wanted to see what they all knew what would happen next, what would happen to all of us. We were all wrong. The tornado killer raised his head from the dirt. Shakily, he lifted his left hand. The air changed. The tornado staggered back, still swirling but woozily swaying, dipping back and forth. And the tornado killer leaped up. Keeping his left hand raised, he sliced his right hand through the air. The tornado reeled. I felt the air change, prickly and hissing. The tornado killer advanced on the tornado, waving, pointing, and punching. His face was cruel and his eyes shone. The tornado wobbled, staggered, screamed. I choked. I couldn't breathe. My body felt as if it was floating. The tornado killer then raised up both hands, gathering up the whirling tornado into a frenzied, narrowing cone. He stretched it taller, narrower, thinner, like it was a string of taffy, thinner, a long, thin, frantically spinning column. The tornado killer drew his hands closer together. The column tightened, spun faster, faster, closer. The tornado was a wildly wobbling, infinitely lengthened thread. The tornado killer clapped. Pop. And there was nothing left of the tornado but the stirring of grass at our feet. Silence. The tornado killer stared at all of us with brutal eyes. I was afraid he would look at me again. He didn't. An easy one, he said. Then the tornado killer limped away. Nobody followed him, but I wanted to.
Good.
Thank you. So I heard that there was somebody from Kansas here who says she knows a lot about tornadoes. Is there anybody else here who thinks they know a lot about tornadoes and wants to be in a tornado trivia contest?
What if you know nothing about tornadoes?
I was a bride.
How about that? Okay, Heather and Elizabeth, let's go for it. Come on up. All right. Dave, can you keep score? Sure. Great. All right. Maybe you could. Yeah. You can sit there if you want. Yeah. All right. well, I'll just give you one. My original idea was to have a buzzer, and I decided that might be a bit much. No, it's fine, please. All right. So.
I like it was a bit too much.
The tornado trivia! Let's get this a little bit closer so we can see the whole. There we go. Okay, so first question will go to Elizabeth. All right. What percentage of the world's tornadoes happen in the United States? Is it A, 90%, B, 75%, C, 50%, or D, 10%?
World's tornadoes?
Yeah.
Let's go with D, 10%.
75%!
Wow.
United States experiences more tornadoes than anywhere else in the world. It's a quintessentially American monster. Each year, the U.S. produces about 1,200 twisters. The runner-up, Canada, clocks in with a paltry 80 to 100. So next question goes to Heather. Heather, you can pull ahead here. The 1996 movie Twister, starring Alan Ruck, Jamie Gertz, and Carrie Elwes, and nobody else that I know about, features what tornado-born animal flying through the air?
Oh, I know that.
I think I know that one.
Yeah.
It is a black and white heifer cow.
That's Steve, you're right. You're correct! It is a cow! Here's a little bit of extra trivia. Fun fact, the CGI cow in Twister is actually a reskinned CGI zebra from the Robin Williams 1995 Jumanji movie. Not the Dwayne Johnson Jumanji. I'm not making this up. This is true trivia. And actually, just while we're on the topic, let's just look at. They are so not impressed by the cow when it goes fast.
Maybe if it had been a zebra.
Just cow. And then this happens. So yeah, I think they're the same one. So yeah, I think they just ran the footage backward of the cow going back the first time. They're like, we get 2 or 3 more seconds out of this. So all right, but she's got a real mad about you vibe. I feel she's like talking to Paul Reiser or something like cow. So okay, that is so 1 for Heather. Okay, next one goes to Elizabeth. What instrumental song by the English band The Tornadoes, which is named after a communications satellite, was #1 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 in December 1962?
I was born in 62. I have no clue.
Oh, you should know!
Take a steal.
Oh, you
Go
know?
for it.
Oh, hold on. The rules are if the one person can't get it, then the other person can try.
Okay.
But hold on.
Yeah, I'm not going to take. I'm going to give you all the time you need.
Nope. No clue.
Do you want me to play it and maybe you can
That,
guess it?
no.
All right.
I'm just going to guess the only communication satellite I know.
All right, to Heather. I'm sorry, it's not you. It is Telstar. Yes, Telstar, produced by the legendary Joe Meek. A spurious lawsuit prevented Meek from receiving royalties from the hit record. The issue was resolved in Meek's favor, but 3 weeks after his death. But it's a famous.
There were like 2 satellites in the 60s, right?
All right, so next one goes to Heather, right? In the second circle of hell of Dante's Inferno, a tornado punishes people who are guilty of what sin?
Oh. Second circle. It doesn't want to be a guess. Unless you want to steal it. Okay. Envy.
Okay, envy is incorrect. Do you want to try?
Actually, I thought it was envy.
All right, what do we got?
Adultery.
You're the closest. It is lust.
Oh.
Dante hears a wailing of sinners and sees souls trapped in a massive tornado that gives no rest to the souls trapped in it. Punishment for being caught up in the winds of passion. Dave. So,
So you saw this picture and you're like, I gotta write this book.
All right, so next one goes to, yeah, she tried and failed, so it goes to you. Yeah. Yes, okay. What Chicago outsider artist wrote a 5,500-page autobiography in which the first 200 pages are about his life and the remaining 5,300 pages are about a tornado named Sweetie Pie that ravages central Illinois in 1906?
Oh no.
You have a clue?
He was an outsider artist. He was not known in his lifetime as a janitor at a hospital.
When you say artist, is he visual or verbal?
Visual.
Okay.
That's one of his pieces.
I have a guess.
Yes.
Oh, that's what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, then I have a guess.
Well, I mean, you might as well try.
Henry Darger.
Henry Darger! Yes!
Yay!
He describes the tornado as looking as like a vast cloud shaped like a little girl's head turned sideways.
I did not know that was. I knew about the little girls. But the tornado.
His art is filled with little girls with wings and penises.
And they're little, evil, crazy little things.
Yeah,
It's fascinating stuff.
A lot of people in Chicago know about Henry Darger because he's from there. But there was a show based on his work, and I took my niece to it when she was 10. But it was like one of those Sleep No More shows. When everybody goes in, you have to put on a face of one of the Vivian girls, one of those little girls that look like this, and you just wandered around this weird, old, abandoned-looking building. There were people dressed as dragons or soldiers going around. Over the course of the night, more and more rooms like opened up. If you found a secret room, you could look in and see a guy dressed up as Henry Darger, like writing and making art.
She loved it.
At the end of the night, she was like, that traumatized me. She's 25 years old and still doesn't know how to drive. So, okay, the next one goes to, what's the score right now?
1-1, I believe.
No, I've got 0.
2-0 then. I didn't
2-0?
get. You got the last
2-0.
one.
You've got both of them.
Yeah, you got Henry Darger,
Yes.
and you got the
The
cow.
cow. I got
Yes.
cow. That was an easy
Thank you for keeping track. So,
Yay.
you tried and guessed. You didn't know, so you went to her. So now it is back to your turn. Okay. Which of America's founding fathers is also a storm chaser?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's Benjamin Franklin. But he's not considered a founding father.
Benjamin Franklin!
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, cool. It's
yes.
not a precedent, but yeah.
There are a lot of problems with Hamilton, but why did they not put Franklin in it? Like one of the funniest
I know.
of the founding
coolest
fathers.
guy.
Yeah. All right, next one is for you, Elizabeth. What movie's tornado special effect was made using a 35-foot-long wool stocking, chicken wire, and compressed air blowing fuller earth around? Dust.
I don't know this.
We should give her a hint.
No.
What movie's tornado?
Oh,
You know
what
this.
is the most
You do
famous
know this.
movie about a tornado?
From Kansas.
Yeah, no.
From
the only-
Kansas.
I know. Oh, was it Bob?
Yes!
Yes! With an assist from Heather. Was it an extra
I'm
fact?
not going to take the win from someone who already knows that I know you know.
A double tornado cut through Irving, Kansas in 1879. Decades later, L. Frank Baum came upon this detail in a newspaper account of the disaster. The name of one of the victims who had been found buried face down in a mud puddle was Dorothy Gale. He named the main character. He said it feels unjust that somebody with the last name of Gale should have been killed by a tornado, and that's where the name comes from. Got that from Lee Sandlin's book Storm Kings. It's all about Midwest.
I never knew that.
Yes. Okay, next one goes to Heather. So we got 2-1.
2-1.
All right. Musician Nico Case has a song about a tornado on an album with a tornado-ish title. What is the name of the song?
Okay, so I'm seeing Middle Cyclone.
But that's the name of the album.
The name of the-
She's Tacoma's own Nico Case.
Album with a tornado-ish title. Any hints from anybody? I really don't know that.
Kick it to you, Elizabeth.
The only thing I guessed was Twister.
This tornado loves you. Nico Case said, I had a dream one night about a tornado. It's a literal story about a tornado in love with a person. That's what the dream was about. It wasn't me the tornado was in love with. It was a kind of kid. This is one of my favorite album covers of all time. All right, next one goes to Elizabeth. Tornadoes may move in any direction, but most of the time they tend to move in a particular direction. What direction is that? A compass direction, not
North.
All right, and 75% of tornadoes move in the southwest to northeast pattern. Give her half a point. Half a point. All right, next one is for Heather. Everybody knows about Sharknado
Okay, I got this.
and Sharknado 2, the second one. Shark happens. And Sharknado 3, oh hell no. What is the Star Wars inspired title of the fourth Sharknado movie?
I mean, I'm gonna probably, I would say Return of the Sharknado, but then the last Sharknado.
Sharknado Strikes Back.
Yes.
Sharknado Strikes Back. Oh, that's a good one.
Star Sharknado,
Wait, that's
Sharknado the Jedi.
Star Trek. Oh boy. Well, I feel like I'd steal your
Yeah.
answer, so I'm gonna, even though
Go
it's
with
really good, I'm gonna just do the Return of the Sharknado, and then you can win it if it's
Sharknado
Strikes Back.
Back.
yeah, I did Return of the Sharknado.
Sharknado, the fourth
Oh,
awakens.
No.
That was stars were so much better.
I know. All right, and you can also check out Sharknado 5 Global Swarming, and the last Sharknado, It's About Time. All right, who's the next question for?
Me.
For Elizabeth. Tornado struck Codell, Kansas in 1916, 1917, 1918, always on May 20th, nearly wiping out the city. What did Codell do in response? You have to pick as many or as few of these as you want, and you'll get a point for each that you get correct. Did they A, declare May 20th Cyclone Day, B, create a 15-foot tall statue of a tornado, C, build a series of tornado walls to interrupt violent airflow, or D, inspire the creation of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency?
I'm gonna go with D.
Just D?
Just D.
I think it's
I think all of the above.
Ah,
Oh.
just two.
Wow.
They declared May 20th Cyclone Day, and they created a 15-foot tall statue of a tornado. This is Kansas knowledge. I'm giving you slow pitches here.
Have you never seen the?
You never been to Codell?
No.
Population 48, unincorporated?
Did this stop the tornadoes?
Did it appease the tornado?
I mean, there haven't been any sense. All right, so next one goes to Heather. In the book, These Happy Golden Years, in the Little House on the Prairie series by Laura Ingalls Wilder,
Okay.
Laura and Almanzo see a tornado. What does a tornado do? Pick as many as are true. And you'll get a point for each of them. A tornado blew a boy's clothes off. B, the tornado flung a boy a mile away. The boy was otherwise unharmed. C, the tornado broke every bone in a boy's body. That's a different. D, the tornado killed 2 mules.
Okay, so I have read all of these books. These were huge hits for me as a child.
This is like the prequel one though, so it's like not.
No, this
I
is
know.
this is like
This
when
is
she's
the
grown up.
after, yeah,
Oh, I
she's
thought
grown
this
up
was
with a
one
mom
with the
though.
parents.
So,
Oh.
okay, so they're usually pretty straightforward dark. I mean, they don't pull punches, but I don't know if they would actually break every bone in a boy's body.
That sounds like it would be from your book.
So
Thank you.
I think it's gonna go with B and D. Do you have
All of the above.
Oh no, really?
So you left 2 points on the table, but you do get 2 points.
Okay, so you now have 4 to 1/2.
All right. Next one is for you, and this is the last one. This is for Elizabeth. In the movie Clyde with a Chance of Meatballs, a tornado made of what kind of food wreaks havoc?
I saw the movie.
It's
It was actually very fun.
a goodie.
But I don't remember what the tornado did. It was throwing out all sorts of food. Pizza was part of it.
What was the tornado itself made of? Give you a hint. The tornado was made of one food.
Spaghetti.
I'm gonna guess
Spaghetti!
Yeah.
It was a spaghetti tornado!
None.
And final score is
4 to 1.5.
hey! Congratulations!
You just did 2.5. You just got spaghetti. Because you did spaghetti and 2.5. What? Yeah.
2.5.
2.5! Yay!
Sorry. Don't ask me to keep score.
So I think I'm going to do a little bit more of a reading and then maybe do some questions and stuff. Is that cool with everybody?
Yeah.
All right. So the main character, this girl, she's got a big sister, Cecilia, and Cecilia is going out with this boy named Archie, who is kind of like the most popular kid in town, and he lives in this weird old house, like a house that's bigger than all the other houses in town, and it's kind of very mysterious house. And wait, is this the right copy? Maybe. Hold on, I will find the page again. Here we go. Okay, and so something weird going on in this town that might be connected with the tornadoes. And but look, the image stayed up. It's a Christmas miracle. Here, let's here before we do anything, angle that so that that thing is at the bottom there, and turn it around, and then I can America. There. All right. So and Archie's mom is kind of creepy, and so I'm going to read this part of it. All right. Cecilia and I rolled our bikes up Archie's driveway to the porch. It was already kind of dark. There's a party going on at the house tonight. Cecilia rang the doorbell. We could hear the shouts and laughter from inside, and then Archie's mother opened the door. Archie's mother stared at us in her broken way, like she wasn't really seeing us, as though she hadn't actually expected anyone to be there. Always a little smaller than I remembered her. She didn't move from the doorway at first, just gazing past us, gray and quiet. I never understood why Archie's dad had married her. Archie's dad used to run an engineering company, but now that he was retired, he mostly puttered in his barn, building and fixing stuff. A big man with a big mustache, and we all liked him. And sometimes I secretly wished he was my father instead of my own dad, which was unfair, but I couldn't help it. Archie's family was just kind of perfect. Not in that they acted like they were better than you, but you just felt lucky to be around them. You wanted to be them. Except for his mother. Nobody in their right mind would want to be her. A nervous, mousy lady with a vaguely pious air, scolding us over things we didn't understand, but then other times overly friendly and icky sweet. I felt awkward around her. So did Cecilia and I think everyone else, but nobody said anything. We kind of passed over the topic of Archie's mother in silence to be polite. We, that's the clique who hangs out at Archie's house, didn't really see Archie's mother that much, actually. She only appeared every once in a while in the background of a party or a sleepover, hovering around in her meek way and making puzzling comments. The snacks she made always tasted sour and odd. Luckily, Archie's dad did most of the cooking, and while we helped him out in the kitchen, chopping up vegetables and laughing and listening to music, Archie's mother would retreat into the creepier parts of the house and quietly lock herself away. Those parts of the house weren't explicitly off limits, but Archie never took us down those dustier, less frequented hallways, and we hesitated to pry because it felt like bad manners. Sometimes, though, by accident, I'd come upon certain locked rooms. I'd try the doorknob, I'd knock on the door, there'd be silence for a moment, and then Archie's mom's voice would come faintly, "I'm in here," like she was in the bathroom. But I don't think it was a bathroom. Those rooms always seemed to be locked, even when nobody was inside them. The last time I was at Archie's was New Year's Eve, 4 months ago, just a few weeks before Archie told us he was moving to Canada. The party was over, we had rung in the new year, Auld Lang Syne and everything. We were all sleeping over, and Cecilia and I had our own room, sharing a bed, when late in the night Cecilia touched my shoulder and whispered to me, "One of those locked rooms is open. I want to go see." I was still half asleep. I could hardly see Cecilia in the dark. "It's so weird, my heart's going so fast. I can't sleep." She grabbed my hand. The house was cold, and she was sweating. I pulled my hand away. Cecilia's eyes flashed in the darkness. She let me go, smiling strangely. We slid out of bed and crept down the long, high-ceilinged hallways of Archie's house. It was freezing cold, and outside the windows we could see the snow flying silently, speeding past the house and spinning in the wind, as if the snowflakes were tiny stars, and the house was airtight and flying through space. The snow piled up outside against the walls, huge drifts of dead stars glowing blue-white by the lights, fading into the vast darkness. "This way," whispered Cecilia. We turned and went down a long hallway, then another. Cecilia clutched my hand, hard. I didn't get why Cecilia was doing this. Usually I was the one who wanted to snoop around Archie's house and actually discovered a few secret doors of my own, some weird rooms. I wanted to go in, but Cecilia caught me and said, "What the hell are you doing? Don't do that. It'd be so embarrassing if you knew you were going in there. I'd just die." But this time, poking around was her idea, not mine. She had this maniacal, witch-like look. It was her urging me on. And Cecilia and I ran and turned and whispered. My body pounded with excitement, and she pointed at the end of a long hallway. There! A jeweled line of light cut across the floor through a cracked open door at the end of the hallway. I'd never been to this particular hallway before. I couldn't see what was in the room, but that little crack was blazing, like there were galaxies of light inside, dazzling, flashing, shimmering gold, rubies, emeralds. Too many colors, too many lights, too much fire and glitter. A strange, low voice spoke. I'd never heard a voice like that before. I turned to Cecilia. She stared ahead, her eyes hot and hard, as if there was something behind that door that she wanted badly. We crept closer to the door. Smoke curled outside the crack, hanging in the hallway, smelling sweet and heavy, stinging my eyes. We edged closer. There were two voices in the room. The first was Archie's mother's voice. The other was that other strange, low voice. Cecilia froze. I tugged her hand. Cecilia didn't move. She was just staring ahead at that door. Her face changed as though she wished we hadn't come, paralyzed like something terrible was about to happen. But we'd come this far. I wanted to know. I pulled her forward. We peeked through. Two women were there. They looked at us as though they'd been waiting for us. Their stares were hard and empty. One of them was Archie's mother. She looked severe and composed, nothing at all like the anxious old housewife she usually was. The other woman was out of a nightmare. She was huge, not fat, but out of proportion. Her neck and arms and legs too long and thick, even her head swollen to over twice the size of any other woman's head, draped and wrapped in colored robes and sashes like the queen of some faraway country, with a red headscarf and gold jewelry dripping with green and blue gems so pleasingly smooth and polished that I wanted to put them in my mouth. She held a curved knife with a jeweled hilt, and her brown eyes were unblinking, and both her enormous breasts were exposed, slicked up with shiny oil, so monstrous I couldn't stop staring. Even though I had never seen this woman before, I knew that she lived right here in town and that she always had. There was a faint, solemn music playing. The room was packed with candles and lights and shelves of little statues and jewelry and gold and brass boxes and jars. The nasty, sweet incense hit me with an immediate headache. There was something scary and cramped and somehow in bad taste about the dizzying complicatedness of the tiny room, but a queasy feeling that the universe itself might somehow really secretly be in bad taste made me want to enter the room and sit down at the feet of these two women. I took a small step toward them, and I felt a powerful, dirty thrill. Cecilia pulled me away, and then we were running down the hallway, running away from the suffocating room, running out through the cold, lonely hallways and the vast, wide-open ballrooms and disused parlors, out to where everything felt bigger and freer and fresher and colder, and I had a rushing, emptying feeling, like escaping from a tiny, hot, vicious universe made just for me. Any questions or comments or objections?
Actually.
Yep, yes.
So you said that your narrator doesn't have a name.
She doesn't have a name.
So kind of like in the narrator in Rebecca.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
It gives a really off-kilter feeling.
I was gonna say, was that a purposeful choice? Was that kind of like Daphne du Maurier inspired, or?
I do it a bit. Like in my last book, Dare to Know, the main character did not have a name.
Okay.
In the book that I'm working on right now, the main character does not have a name, and my editor hates it. she was like, "Are you good? This new one? Does the main character have a name?" I was like, "No," and she's like, "I hate you. Kill you." The editors hate that. People who are trying to sell the book hate it.
I
You
love
can't
that.
say so and so is a normal kid, and like you got to be like our unnamed narrator. It's very clunky. However, it kind of, if you say like, "Oh, her name is Stacey Jones," you're like, "Okay, this is all Stacey Jones's problem." But if you don't give them a name, you kind of overlap with them a little bit in a way. But it's that I think.
I do. I like that. I remember reading Rebecca when I was like 13, and I just thought that was so amazing that she never knew. You never found it out. She was just sort of your introduction to this world, and these sort of off-kilter, creepy things were happening, which is so cool and interesting. So I can't wait to pick it up.
Yeah, and I mean, Proust does it.
Yeah,
Like it's 3,000 pages of In Search of Lost Time. You never find out the guy's name. It's a
Yeah.
miracle of grammar, if nothing else. Any other questions? This is a really good question.
How do you see the 3 books kind of, how they kind of evolve together? And
Starting with Oddfish or starting with Dare to Know?
starting with Oddfish.
I think Oddfish is about a girl who gets drawn into a creepy religion. This book is about a girl who gets drawn into a creepy religion. The middle book is about a grown man who gets drawn into a creepy religion. I grew up Catholic. The first one is funny and it's for young people. For everybody, right? I mean, an adult can enjoy it, right?
Yeah, my favorite part is pretty fucked up.
Oh
The part where he pulls off the skin.
yeah.
Yeah.
You just love taking children.
He takes all his
Take
clothes
him
off,
to
and he
the-
shows his skin, and melts into his organs, and he's a skeleton. And then
Yes.
he puts on new ones.
Yes.
But it's children's literature.
You know, in that-
That's normal. That's a trope.
In
right?
that creepy scene is another thing that I try to put into many of my books is a creepy reference to Oklahoma. Because in this book has a lot of creepy references to Oklahoma, and in that, like they say, that character has taken off all of his clothes, and he says, I have to go further. And one of the policemen who's trying to stop him says, I think you've gone about as far as you can go, which is that's from Oklahoma, and that's about as far as you can go. From everything's up to date in Kansas City. If Oklahoma happens in any of my books, somebody's in trouble. I was in Oklahoma when I was so in this book. It's I'm just a girl who can't say no, and people will say we're in love, and I could not get the rights to those songs, so I just scuzzed it up. You'll see how I got around it. But they took one look at this book and they're like, no way. The Rogers and Harrison estate. But I was in Oklahoma when I was in high school. Can anybody guess what my role was in Oklahoma? Who is here has seen or know of Oklahoma?
I mean, I know of it. I don't know
It's a
Okay,
musical,
Yeah.
right?
it's a musical.
Okay.
a little bit about it.
I was. Do you have a guess?
I don't know, her dad.
A tornado.
So you were in the play.
I was in the play. I was cast in 1988, mind you, as Ali Hakim, the Persian peddler man. They put me in brown face. I'm never going to be in the Supreme Court. Or maybe I would have had a shot a couple years ago. So yeah, it was a low point. Yeah.
What high school was
What's that?
What high school was that?
Bishop Foley Catholic High School. You can blame Mrs. Shaner, the math and drama teacher, who is now dead. Any other questions? She was good.
I have another question. Sorry,
Yes.
am I dominating?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, so when you were describing it, sort of, and I read the back of it, I kind of got very Shirley Jackson Lottery vibes
Mhm.
from this story. Is that an author who maybe has sort of inspired you? Because when you said it's kind of mundane, but then the
Mhm.
adults are in this thing, and the kids don't really know what's going on.
Yes, I think maybe the one of the big texts of American literature is the lottery.
Yeah.
And it's a pattern that plays out again and again, whether it's the Salem witch trials or it's everybody piling it on each other on the internet. Like we do this thing, we pick somebody and we destroy
It's
them.
very tribal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is a philosopher, Rene Girard. Has anybody read Rene Girard, Violence and the Sacred? It's a book that I remember. This is before I wrote The Order of Oddfish, and I was at Borders, and there was a copy of Violence and the Sacred. And I was like, oh, this looks very interesting. And I took it, and I was not in the financial league to buy a book, so I just sat and I read it at the cafe. And then I went home and I realized it was in my bag. I was like, I inadvertently stole this book. I was like, already this book felt evil and weird to me. And this book is all about, Rene Girard has this idea that the way that communities come together and they seal the bonds between them is that they pick somebody in that community who's both innocent and in a way guilty. Like somebody who's both in the community and not in the community, that they can all commit a unanimous murder upon, whether real or symbolic. And that is what brings communities together. He also has this idea of mimetic desire, which is we don't we don't want things because it's something intrinsic to the thing. We want things because we see other people wanting them. And so he's a very interesting philosopher. He was at Stanford. One of his star pupils, Peter Thiel, the guy who PayPal and what was this other companies? Palantir, all the spy technology.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel, whose name is an anagram for the reptile, very good person. He took all of the lessons of Rene Girard and did the darkest things with them.
Yeah.
But he's also very so whether it's order about fish, a whole town turning against somebody like who is both in the town and not of the town to do some kind of ritual, or this with the tornado killer. Ever since I read that book, that's kind of changed how I write.
Wow.
Like the ideas of mimetic desire, we want things not because we want them, because other people want them, and unanimous murder of innocent / not innocent. Go read him, he's great. Other questions? Yes. Oh, what's your name?
Huh?
Yes.
Were there other core philosophy like texts that influenced your sense of horror?
That's a really good question. I want to answer this honestly, and so I can't think of anything off the top of my head for horror per se. I just remember finding that particular the kind of philosophy I did in college was because I was a physics major and a philosophy double major. Did a lot of philosophy of space and time, which is not very great for writing books. It's very dry, except for Dare to Know had a lot of like philosophy, like fake scientific philosophy in it. My previous book, but so there I took from philosophy and stuff like that. But now for this one, I think it's very much Rene Girard, and I got to get off this guy. I got to find a new person. Oh wait, not a philosopher, but there is a writer from Detroit whose name escapes me for a moment, and he wrote a book about that was referenced all the time in True Detective. He's like an anti-natalist. He thinks people shouldn't be born. Does anybody know the name of this guy? He's an author. He wrote something called The Red Tower. Look up The Red Tower. Author. It's like a short story. There would be no Welcome to Night Vale without this guy. And this book is kind of also a little bit like Welcome to Night Vale, except I finished writing this book in 2014, and it's just kind of sitting in my drawer for a while, and now it's just finally coming out. But
Mark Layton.
no, it's not it. He also wrote a short story called The Night Manager. So while they're looking up, here's a little piece of. You might wonder, The Order of Outfish came out in 2008, and my next book came out in 2021. What happened? Well, I had 2 kids. That's one thing. Another thing is, I submitted Bride of the Tornado as my next book as a YA book
Oh no.
to my agent, and it caused her to drop me. She was like, I'm not going to represent this, and this is too fucked up for me to represent, and I don't think we should part ways. So there's a happy ending to this story. Tina Wexler of International Creative Management is no longer an agent, and this book just got published. So she left the industry seeking opportunities elsewhere. Yes. So yes.
Did you do much rewriting between when you did it in 2014?
Oh yeah, and I mean maybe it was too rough back then. Maybe it was just bad. I don't think so. It didn't change that much. But I think maybe the problem is I said this is a YA book, and she was like, no, it's not. And when I tried, and then when I finally got a new agent, this is the book that got me the agent. It was like, I think I could sell this, but do you have something a little more normal before that? I was like, well, I've got this thing, Dare to Know. It's like, that's not more normal. However, this is hookier. It has more of a hook, the premise of it. So I think I can sell this, and let's go to Bride of the Tornado. And that's what happened.
I actually have one more.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay, so my husband is from Mexico, which is a place that has very violent weather. And if anyone's maybe visited there, been there, like a lot of the like kind of native Aztec Mayan beliefs have to do with vengeful gods, weather gods. And like I don't think I ever truly understood how terrifying the weather can be until I went to visit my husband during the storm season.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying. And people really live their lives around the rhythm of like, oh, there's a few raindrops, you drive to the mall. You don't go in tunnels, like you don't drive in tunnels, you know? And I just think that's such an interesting concept, which is this violent weather for a metaphor for maybe adolescence or sexuality or whatever you're kind of dealing with in the story. Like, and it seems like you've got lots of influences, these artists, you know, Dante Inferno, this music that you love. Like, how did you bring that all together? And you were like, okay, pull all these parts together, and then now this.
I think I just had the idea of a tornado killer, and
Yeah.
then but I realized that can't be the main character
No.
because it's too out there. It has to be somebody who's fascinated by a tornado killer.
Okay.
It's somebody who's like kind of like, you know, in The Great Gatsby.
Yeah,
If Gatsby
you
was the main
got Nick.
character, you know, it wouldn't work.
No.
There is a part in the book in which like you do see things from the tornado killer's point of view, but I think once I had that idea of like small town life, a tornado killer, I think a lot of things just started falling into place. But it took a while to write it because like I first had the idea in 1995. And then originally the main character had a lot of friends and there was like a whole social scene. And one by one, the book got better and better the more she lost friends. And when she was like an isolated character, then she became much more interesting. And she wasn't being pulled this way and that by all these other people. And so just like her and her sister, more or less, are best friends. And even after a while, not even that. Yeah, I think I was looking this up. This is after I wrote the book, but I was looking at what are like Native American ideas about tornadoes, and there was a tribe that like it's written up in a newspaper. It's like a story from like 2012 or something about like there was a tornado coming and they did this kind of ritual and the tornado just like avoided the reservation, and they've done it like a couple times, and it's like wow, that's very interesting. There are more things in heaven and earth kind of thing. But they have this idea like tornadoes are not bad. They're just like reestablishing some kind of balance. I'm not going to speak for the Native Americans, but it was interesting when I read about it. It's worth looking up.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Thank you.
How are we doing on time?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. We have time for a couple more questions, I would say.
Do you have any questions?
I do have some questions.
Okay.
I have many questions. This book made me think about, I think it might have been Lemony Snicket, who I remember saying great children's literature or literature about kids or young people is often distinguished by the fact that you can't trust the adults.
Yes.
Because that's so often children's experience, like real lived experience, is that adults truly don't, like they've kind of lost the necessary ability to understand what the children are really going through.
Yeah.
And this, but this is not, they're malevolent in this book. And I would love to hear more about this kind of like
You grew up Catholic,
struggle
did he tell you
against
that?
it. Tell me more about the Catholicism of it all and the.
I think Roald Dahl put it pretty well. He's like think about like adults from like their point of view. You're looking up these giants, you're seeing their nose hairs.
Yeah.
It's not like that. There's these monsters that control your life, and they seem to be arbitrary in what they do. And I have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old now, so I am one of those monsters now. I think that's very true. I remember one time I met the author Richard Pack, who was a Newbery winner for like A Long Way from Chicago. And do you remember those books? It's about like this cantankerous grandma, you know, who's so feisty and full of life, and these kids just kind of like trailing along on her adventures, and she does one interesting thing after another. I was like, when I met him, he was a super gentleman, but I could not get behind his books because it's like giving all the agency to the adults, and the kids it's like Huck Finn. Instead of lighting out for the territories, he just stays with his two aunts and watches them, you know. And I think like there's a lesson in that. Like I don't. Those books are assigned a lot in schools, but are they read by children for pleasure? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it speaks to, and I think books for adults should have malevolent children. What they're going to do is succeed us and devour us one way or another. You know, so it goes both ways.
I have one more. If you don't
Okay.
Climate change is putting us into a time of extreme weather.
Yes.
To what extent did that influence this book?
Not at all, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's timely, and it was timely even in 2014 when I finished the first draft of this. But I like it wasn't something that was on my mind. It's not like oh, we can all band together and do something about this in Bride of the Tornado. It's like it's a religious, I don't want to say spiritual, demonic kind of thing that they're doing, like psychological and not like a scientific problem or like. There's two ways to approach Mars, I think. You can go the Ray Bradbury way, The Martian Chronicles, the spiritual way, or you can try to read that book that you recommended to me that I hated by Kim Stanley Robinson.
Oh, God.
And
I didn't particularly like. I only read.
what? You told me to read it. I got like 3/4 of the way through that thing. I was like, I hate this. Just being so scientific all the time.
Yeah, I read Mars and I stopped. And there's like green Mars and blue Mars. I was like, it's too dry.
Trust me. Wow. Okay. Well, I think we've come to some closure then. But like,
I do like the hard science more, but but I do like the Ray Bradbury.
I prefer the Ray Bradbury approach to Mars.
Symbolic.
It's like a symbolic, spiritual place where he's working out his own ideas about like America and colonialism and things like that in a metaphorical way, and not like what would really happen if we went to Mars. It's like Ray Bradbury's like, what would really happen? The Martians would act like they're from my hometown in 1927, and they'd all act like us until it was time to kill us. That's what would happen, right? Like he's like master of like whenever Ray Bradbury does nostalgia that turns to horror, that's when he's in his wheelhouse. You know, and when he strays from that, like God, one of his last short story collections, I think it's called The Toyn Beacon Vector. There's a short story about a guy who's been long impotent and his penis suddenly comes back to life, and he calls over all his old girlfriends, and they all just sit and admire it. It's like like he could just sneeze and they publish it at that point. And I was just like, he should have thought twice before. And I remember reading when I was 12. I was like, is this what I think it is? I don't think it can really be what I think. I don't think it could be anything other than this. Let's go to the next one. Forget I read that one. They just come over and admire. They go, "Oh, we had such great times with it," and they all go home. It's a very strange short story. How did I get on that topic?
That's how you recognize that adults are always similar.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
they think this is good. No, I don't know.
Oh, actually, he wrote a sequel to Dandelion Wine when he was very old, in which it's the old people against the young people, and the young people are evil. Like it's called like Farewell Summer. It is crazy. It has the same relationship to Dandelion Wine. It's like anybody ever read the Mark Twain unfinished novel number 44, The Mysterious Stranger? It's like so weird. It is like where Huck Finn is like, we're gonna have this big American adventure. Number 44 is just like this demonic, weird, and it's also very unsettling because it's not finished. So number 44, The Mysterious Stranger, by Mark Twain.
So interesting.
So I think if anybody will, oh wait, can we take a picture of everybody like holding up books and hanging out? And,
I don't have one yet.
oh yeah, everybody buy a book. Here, hold it. You can hold the book. Oh yeah, there we go. Maybe we could all like go maybe around this. Would that make sense? Like,
Do you want us to put the lights back on?
Okay, we only just sing a video of everyone singing that song. I've just told all my friends about it, and some people I know are seeing you on another day, and they expect the song.
they want me to do it.
We need the song.
They want the
Not
song.
now, but at any time.
Okay.
Or now.
I want
mean,
a recording of the song.
Wait, the song he sang earlier,
Yeah.
I have a record.
I told all my friends that are going to your other event, so I hope you're ready to
Well, but
sing.
it's online. Me doing it in a tornado costume. Here, why don't we like all go so that this is like kind of in the background.
Yes.
If we could all like get a little mise en scène over here.
What should I have him say?
What should we? Let's see. Everybody come in. Make it look like a lot of people came to this event. Here, Elizabeth, we need you as a warm body to be in there.
Okay. Wait, let me get a better. Nope. Hang on.
You have to go back even further. Maybe you need to be a landscape.
There we go. Oh, I could do that, but they look so silly. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. You look great. Smiles.
Hey!
There we go.
We did it. Oh wait, could you do it on my phone?
I can certainly do that.
Here,
Okay, everyone look really grumpy that we're here.
I want to be like, everyone throw the books at me.
Everyone do Midwestern Gothic and hold your pitchfork. Don't
okay. Well, first let's smile, then we'll do that.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Smiling, having a good time. And now the one where everyone looks extremely grim. Miseries. That's really funny.
Great.
Everyone looks wretched.
Wait, check it out.
Oh my god, it's really good.
Yes. Oh, why so sad? That's really good. I love it.
Someone on socials who
Oh yeah, totally.
we had a horrible time.
That's great. So
We'll never
sad.
send it back. Don't do that.
James, I am curious. In the back of the book, it mentions Stephen King.
Yeah.
Are you much of a Stephen King